जिस तरह पाकिस्तान को आज महबूस करके धरती माँ को मुक़य्यद करके जिस तरह जकड़ के जो हशर कर दिया है इस धरती माँ का अलमान पहले कभी ऐसा ना देखा था। न कोई कानून है, न कोई अदलिया है और शिराजा बखेर कर रख दिया गया है इस मुल्क का। हेनरी किसिंगर ने धमकी दी कि भुट्टो तुम बाद आ जाओ, इसको बंद कर दो प्रोग्राम को, वरना तुम्हें इबरत का निशान बनाएंगे। हमने हेनरी किसिंगर को कुछ नहीं किया, हमने अमेरिका को कुछ नहीं देखा। हमारे ही जनरल जियाउल हक ने मौलवी मुश्ताक के साथ मिलकर भुट्टो को फांसी देके इबरत का निशान बना दिया।
अगर इस हाई कोर्ट में जरूरत होती, इस हाई कोर्ट के चीफ जस्टिस में जरूरत होती, मजाल है कि कोई पुलिस वाला आके ये हरकत कर जाता।
आपके दिन थोड़े रह गए, जिन्हें चुने और आपने कुछ मुकदमात का फैसला करना। गुजारा इनको छोड़ना चाहिए।
हमारे एम्बेसडर मजीद को धमकी देता है कि अगर तुमने इमरान खान को निकाल दिया तो अमेरिका तुम्हें माफ कर देगा। गुलाम है ना, गुलाम है हम अमेरिका के, आज से नहीं उस वक्त से गुलाम ही कर रहे हैं ना। डोनाल्ड लू की उस बात को कैसे माना? हमने प्राइम मिनिस्टर को चलता किया। एक दिन तो बता दो आपने आइन की अमलदारी की हो।
जो मुकदमा है फौजी अदालतों से, उसका फैसला कीजिए। वो एक ऐसा मुकदमा है जो एक इम्तियाज बना देगा। कौन सा मोहतरम जज चीफ जस्टिस मुनीर की रिवायत को लेके चल रहा है और कौन सा मोहतरम जज चीफ जस्टिस कॉर्नेलियस की रिवायत को लेके चल रहा है।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट कहती है कि 14 मई को इलेक्शंस करवाओ, 90 दिन के अंदर इलेक्शंस करवाओ। ये धुतकार के कंटेम्प्चुअसली उसको जो है उसका डिफाई करते हैं। हुकूमतें आती जाती रहनी है, तुम रियासत के मुलाजिम हो।
इनकी कमजोरियां, छोटी छोटी कमजोरियां, छोटे छोटे मुफादात, छोटे छोटे फेवर, किन चीजों की खातर आप ये कर रहे हैं? बड़े दुख की बात है। हिम्मत दिखाओगे? शावर हाई कोर्ट हिम्मत दिखा रही है, वहां जरूरत नहीं पड़ रही किसी की।
Welcome, this is Najma Minhas and Moeed Pirzada with GVS Dialogue. With very fiery speeches today at the Supreme Court Bar Association convention. What was the overall message that came out?
You know, before I go to the message, I think I want to assert the fact that today, the September 7th, 2023, was a very important day in Pakistan's political, legal, and constitutional history. And perhaps not only in the constitutional legal history, but also in the overall general history of Pakistan. Because the way things are moving up on the 32nd day of Imran Khan's arrest and incarceration in the Atak jail, if the authorities were expecting that their life would become easier, it's not becoming easier. There is a newer kind of subtle, more broad-based, more nationalistic, legal, constitutional challenge that is actually being built up inside Pakistan. And Pakistan is the place that really matters in that respect. Whatever the world may say or whatever the world may do, if the people of Pakistan develop a new consciousness. So in that context, the things that are happening on the courts, before I go to the Supreme Court convention, the Bar Association convention, also look at the some of the decisions that have been passed. For instance, in the last 24 hours, the decision by Islamabad High Court Justice Babar Sattar, in which he has indicted, initially he had threatened, but now he has indicted the Deputy Commissioner Islamabad, the SSP Police Islamabad, another SP Islamabad, the Superintendent of Police, and is also the SHO of the Margla Thana for violating the orders of the Islamabad High Court regarding the detentions and re-arrest of Shahriar Afridi and Shandana Gulzar. It's an important milestone, whereas I do understand that Justice Babar Sattar will be brought under pressure from the authorities and the powers that were actually using the police and the district management. But still, it's an important mood of desperation that how the judicial institutions and the lawyers are challenging up and living up, challenging the military authorities in Pakistan, despite the fact that what has Pakistan seen is an utmost brutality. I mean, this country has not since 1980s seen such a ferocity and intensity from the establishment. And even in 1980s, it was a short-lived affair. It was not that sustained. But now the people are fighting back. And in that context, I think it was a historic day. Not only the speeches, but also the 15-point resolution that came out of the Supreme Court Bar Association convention. I mean, you look at the 15-point, I mean, some of the points are the Supreme Court Bar. First of all, the Supreme Court Bar Association convention was named as a convention for the defense of constitution, for the defense of the rule of law, for the defense of democracy and for the defense of the human rights. And now the 15-point resolution, which was unanimously agreed, basically demands that elections should be held within the constitutional laid 90-day as per the constitutions. That means before 9th of November. That under no such circumstances the constitution allows for any caretaker government to extend beyond 90 days. They made it very clear that a caretaker government is a creation, a child of the constitution. And the constitution is very clear that such a child cannot have a life of more than 90 days. Also, they demanded that no trial of the civilians can actually take place under the military courts. And they said that the governments that continue to work in Punjab and KP after the 90-day limit are strictly unconstitutional. They also, I think, one of the very important thing, which was in the speeches as well since 1st and 2nd September, but now it's part of the 15-point agenda when the Supreme Court Bar Association's resolution says that the military officers in the military are creations of the Constitution. That means all the powers, the prestige, the respect which the military officers derive is essentially a function of the Constitution. I mean, the Constitution has given them that authority, the moral authority, the respect, the prestige, the protection and everything. And under no such circumstances, the military officers should think that they can act beyond the Constitution. So I think it's a very important day in the history of Pakistan.
Do you think the establishment will get worried from the message that came out of this convention?
I think the establishment is worried. Maybe when you're very powerful, very arrogant, and there's a combination of ignorance and arrogance in Pakistan on the part of establishment. But I think they are worried, and they should be worried. If they were not worried, why the army chief is like using such strong words and retreating again and again that he's going to do something horrible or take control of the social media? I mean, if the situation, after all, there are only 6 people, 2 in UK, 2 or 3 in the United States, including myself, and 1 person in Canada. I mean, if these 5 or 6 people have become such a big threat to the control and domination of the military in Pakistan, then there's something seriously wrong with the regime.
You mentioned the military courts as one of the resolution points that was agreed on. Aitzaz Ahsan very much emphasized the importance of the Chief Justice, and he said he spoke directly to the Chief Justice and said, I'm addressing the Chief Justice Bandial and asking him, he needs to make decisions on these open cases. And in particular, he referred to the military court cases and said, this is what will decide whether you are a Moeed court or a Cornelius court. What were the 2 courts? I mean, what is the reference he's giving there? And what is the importance of that reference?
This actually relates to the same court decision in which Justice Cornelius, who was a Christian minority justice, had written, this is the Maulvi Tamizuddin Khan case of 1955, in which the then National Assembly, which was actually dissolved by the government of Ghulam Muhammad, the Governor General Ghulam Muhammad. And Ghulam Muhammad and Moeed, the Justice Muhammad Moeed, were close friends. And Justice Moeed was influenced by Governor General. The Sindh High Court, in those days there wasn't a Supreme Court. So Sindh High Court had actually given a verdict that the dissolution of the National Assembly or the Speaker, the petition was actually brought by the Speaker. That is why it's called Tamizuddin. The Speaker's name was Maulvi Tamizuddin Khan. So the Sindh High Court in Karachi had decided that the Governor General action was illegal, unconstitutional. But then the matter went up to the Chief Court. The Supreme Court was then called Chief Court. And the Chief Court, the Chief Justice was Muhammad Moeed, and he and I think 2 other judges, or 1 other judge, basically decided that the Sindh High Court decision was not true. And they invoked a principle called as has been done to death in terms of condemnation, called as the law of necessity, in which they exploited a European jurist Hans Kelsen's theory of the law of necessity. And they basically said, since the regime has been changed, therefore nothing can be done, and the decision of the Sindh High Court is not legal in law. So this is considered one of the darkest moment in the constitutional, legal, and democratic history of Pakistan. And Justice Cornelius wrote the minority decision in which he supported the Sindh High Court decision and basically opposed the Governor General's decision. And this is what Aitzaz is saying. Because when you say Muhammad Moeed, it is almost like you're saying Mir Jafar in terms of the you're saying
Symbolism.
Mir Sadiq as a traitor. So, I mean, he's basically saying that Omer Ata Bandial, who everybody says is a good man, but now everybody also says that Justice Omer Ata Bandial is probably a coward. I mean, he's not really a very bold man, or maybe the establishment has something on him. That is why he has never been able to take any bold decision. Or maybe he's very cautious. I mean, no, I mean, people are very frustrated. I mean, on the issue of the military court, people are very, very frustrated with him.
You mentioned Babar Sattar's decision this morning where he indicted officials. This is something that Latif Khosa also mentioned in his speech very fervently. He said that if those 5 ministers had been put into jail, and he referred in particular to the law minister and the interior minister as part of the 5, that if these 5 ministers had been put into jail after they refused to accept the court's ruling on elections to be held on May the 14th, this country would be another country altogether. What does that mean? I mean, how would these decisions, putting officials into jails, how does that impact the state of Pakistan?
It impacts, I mean, just imagine this, that I'm not sure if Justice Sattar would be able to put the Deputy Commissioner Islamabad, SSP Islamabad, NSP Islamabad, and his SHO in a jail, maybe the Atrak or somewhere. I'm not sure, because I'm sure that those powers, the intelligence community that has been using these officers as tools and hammers, will actually put pressure on Justice Babar Sattar and find out some way to basically save the skin. Because if these officers are put in jail, then which next deputy commissioner, if the intelligence community and the ISI is unable to save the skin of the deputy commissioner Islamabad and the SSP Islamabad, then which other officer in Punjab and KP is going to accept the dictates and demands of the intelligence community? This is what Khosa is basically saying when he refers to the law minister, the interior minister, the justice minister, and so on, who had not implemented and obeyed the decision of the Supreme Court of Pakistan when it decided that the elections in Punjab should be held on 14th May. Despite having no reason for not. And the Supreme Court has further validated when it had, given the detailed judgment on that. And then when the Election Commission of Pakistan went up with the petition recently in the last few days to get a relief from the decision of the Supreme Court threw out the petition. So this is what he basically says, that, the Supreme Court should actually disqualify and convict these people to send a message.
Latif Khosa, I want to come to the question that Latif Khosa raised a very interesting point, as did Aitzaz. Both of them refer to the cipher and Pakistan's response in return to the cipher. Latif Khosa went into a lot of detail. He also talked about Henry Kissinger and what happened to Bhutto as well. What is the point they're trying to make there? Is this a legal point that they're trying to bring up, or are they referring to some psychological point?
No, I heard Latif Khosa Saab and I heard Aitzaz Ahsan. I think they're not making a legal point at all. They're actually making a political point, an overall political point. When Latif Khosa says that, Henry Kissinger had warned Zulfikar Ali Bhutto of dire consequences, and then we ended up hanging Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. Then Henry Kissinger was a Secretary of State at that time. He was the topmost functionary. I mean, he was a very important member of the American system. On the other hand, Donald Lu was a mid-ranking official, maybe equal to a grade 20 Pakistani officer at most. So what Latif Khosa is basically saying, that we have regressed in such a bad way. We have turned ourselves into a joke. That, previously it was Henry Kissinger, the Secretary of the State, on whose warning our generals and the Chief Justice of the Lahore High Court ended up hanging Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, the popularly elected Prime Minister, the twice elected Prime Minister. And now our Prime Minister as a Foreign Minister both are in jail because a mid-ranking American official had sent a warning. I think this is not strictly legal. This is purely a political argument.
Another interesting comment was made by Hamid Khan with regard to Bangladesh. He referred to the fact that now we understand, now that this is hitting us in Punjab and people in Punjab are being picked up, for the first time we're really understanding what has happened in this country. And he went into detail on Bangladesh.
हमें पता चल रहा है कि 1971 में हमारे बंगाली भाइयों के साथ क्या हुआ था। वो मुझसे अच्छे पाकिस्तानी थे, वो हम सबसे अच्छे पाकिस्तानी थे, पाकिस्तान बनाने वाले थे, पाकिस्तान की बुनियाद रखने वाले लोग थे।
Increasingly, if you look at Twitter, you look at social media, comments referring to Bangladesh and understanding what they must have gone through in 1971 are very pervasive. What impact do you think this is going to have on the establishment and the role of Pakistan going forward as well?
You know, it's difficult to say in black and white terms, but I think the narrative which Pakistan's establishment had made around itself, in which it wrapped itself, and which worked very well for it, that Pakistan's establishment is to protect the citizens of Pakistan from external aggression. Certainly, in the last several months, increasingly, this narrative is totally shattered. And so far, the top generals have not realized the implications and effects of the erosion of this narrative. I mean, now they're standing under the sun. They still, since they have the powers, and the DCs, deputy commissioners, and the district courts and the police are under the awe of the military officers. But sooner or later, I suspect that there will be more and more people like Justice Babar Sattar. There'll be more and more people like Latif Khosa. There'll be more and more people like Aitzaz Ahsan and Hamid Khan. There are more and more young lawyers. I mean, this is not just the people sitting on the Twitter. Maybe the people who are outside Pakistan, in the UK, North America, they're not feeling as much heat, and that is why they are able to express their point of view. But their point of view is not any different from the point of view of the people of Pakistan. People of Pakistan feel exactly the same. I mean, they are conveying these feelings to their brothers who are all over the world. I mean, Pakistani diasporas have all their families in Pakistan. They're not aliens from the Mars. So they are expressing what the people of Pakistan are feeling. So ultimately, this whole psychology, this whole thinking that you can control almost 250 million people through an unending, regime of fear and repression is not going to work. At some point, it's going to break. And this is breaking already. The step by step, this is breaking. This not only the 15-point resolution by the Supreme Court Bar Association, but also the decision to hold a national strike by the lawyers on 14th of September. Then earlier, the Pakistan Bar Council had also decided to hold a protest rally and a strike on 9th of September. Similarly, there were strikes against electricity and fuel charges, Azad Kashmir, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in Punjab, which have been underreported or not reported by the media. But all these things are happening. Now, when you're very powerful and you have so many people saying, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, and it will be done, you don't realize the risks. But maybe the people who are not directly in control, they do realize that Pakistan's establishment has lost its umbrella, has lost its cover. It's very difficult for them to sustain themselves.
That cover it. So this lawyers' convention, do you think it's similar to the 2007 moment that we saw when the lawyers' movement started, and finally the march, which culminated in the reinstatement of Iftikhar Chaudhry, and ultimately General Musharraf had to resign from the post of president? Do you think ultimately it will be the lawyers' movement that might achieve something similar?
You see, I don't know whether the lawyers' movement will achieve or something else will happen. What I know as a keen student of history is this, that the situation in Pakistan, this system being run through fear, ultra wires of law, ultra wires of constitution, having no common sense and logic, is not sustainable. The challenge for the establishment is not that they can arrest many politicians and political workers who control the courts. The real challenge for them is that by exercising this control, as they have created the fear after the May 9th events, the real challenge is that they want to create a new political system which gives them a smooth sailing. I mean, it is believed that there is a deal between the current army chief and Nawaz Sharif, and he has been allowed to come back to Pakistan. His plans to come back in Pakistan around 15th of October. So the thinking is that we will be able to control all the opposition, the lawyers, the courts, the district management, the police, the media, all dissident voices, and then we'll be able to hold a managed election through a new rigged delimitation process, which is actually nothing but gerrymandering. And we will be able to resurrect a new political order, which will have the legitimacy. I think the time has actually gone for that. If General Bajwa in April 2022 had imposed martial law, saying this, that Imran government has failed to manage the economy, external relations, we need to come and bring up something like SIFIC, the Special Investment Facilitation Council. We're going to bring investments of $25 billion or $50 billion from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, and so on, and we're going to mend a relationship with the America and the West. It might have worked because they would have immediately snapped the civil rights, and then they might have actually had the power to deliver something. But they decided to bring a collection of corrupt politicians in the form of the PDM, which has not been able to deliver anything. Now, the time for martial law has also gone. I mean, sometimes people think that perhaps, they will impose the martial law. And there are very intelligent people who think that ultimately General Asim will take control and will become like General Sisi and will be able to sit for 10 years. I think it's difficult. I think I think things are not moving in that direction.
We thank you for sharing your short thoughts with us.